empowering children with creativity, confidence, and imagination in stage performance is our topic today. And we have Melanie Gillespie, better known locally as Mel O'Drama, the author of Darlene the Drama Queen, Raises the Curtain on Confidence. Hi, I'm Suzette Standring, and I'm the host of It's All Right with Suzette. For the next 30 minutes, we're going to explore authors, their works, and the craft of writing. And we're so lucky to have Melanie Gillespie, better known as Mel O'Drama, with us today. She is the founder of Mel O'Drama Acting School for Kids here in Milton, Massachusetts, which is expanding into Quincy. So congratulations on that.
Thanks, Suzette.
She graduated from Emerson College, and she comes from a very theatrical family in Ireland. Her father was a performer, her mother was the manager, and she grew up around a lot of creativity, which has now informed your life as a drama teacher.
Absolutely.
She was featured in a soap opera in Ireland, and she's been in several plays. And her book, Darlene the Drama Queen, is her first published children's book. So, thanks for coming here today, Mel.
Thanks for having me, Suzette.
Now, Darlene the Drama Queen is a richly illustrated children's book that encourages children towards creativity and confidence. Tell us what parents and children will draw from your book.
Well, there's many things that I hope that they would draw from the book, beautifully illustrated by Jason Boucher, full of colour. You know, I'm a keen believer that children's imaginations are still incredibly colourful and uninhibited and fresh, and so I wanted that to kind of reflect upon their imaginations when they read. I think my top priority in this is that children can relate to the characters. I was very deliberate in choosing Darlene the Drama Queen to be a character that looked more like a little girl who had fallen into a bin of costumes and had grabbed a crown from this costume and a top from this and a skirt from that, and she has odd socks and she's the big red chucks on, and in some of the illustrations she even has little boo-boos on her legs. I want her to look like a little girl that I have in the drama school, or that, you know, any child reading the book can say, hey, she kind of looks like me, or I could just put a crown on and become her. So relatability is a big one for me. And then next, I would say, very important that they take from it the confidence aspect, which is at the core of my program in Mel O'Drama. I'm very passionate about arming children with the tools they need to be confident, to speak up, to be heard, and to just enjoy and celebrate who they are themselves, as they are. It's a very big thing for me that children celebrate the way they look, the way they sound, the way they dress. And again, in the illustration of Darlene, it was important for me that she was accessible to children. She really is a little piece of a lot of my students glued together as one. I've already had a few students say to me, oh, she has my eyes, or she has my personality, or is that my hair, Mel? So I think kids are already relating to her, which is great.
I think it's wonderful because it's not just for children who want to become performers. It is for any child who could use a boost in confidence, and it's pretty intimidating to be on stage.
You wouldn't believe the amount of parents that I have after a show, particularly moms that'll come over and say, any chance you starting a class for the moms? You know, because
right. Exactly.
it is a terrifying experience standing up. I would say it's probably top 5 and biggest fears for people, standing up and presenting on front of an audience, because you feel judged, you feel analysed, and you know, I think if you start children young and you instill that belief in them, that guess what? There are tools for you that you can use to get up there and speak and present and just be proud of who you are.
I think it's so valuable. As an adult, I belong to Toastmasters, and it's amazing the stage fright that many people, if not all of them, start out with, and how as an adult you have to learn those skills. And to have children become comfortable and have that confidence is a very important gift. Now, I understand that in Ireland you come from a theatrical family and you've been performing since the age of 9. In what way has your experiences affected what you do for a living and how you approach the children?
Well, I'd have to say that they've only affected me positively, which is a good thing. So we grew up with a father who was performing. He's still performing today. He's a comedian and a singer. And I fondly remember going on the road to some of his shows and being backstage and just getting that buzz. There's something very special about being backstage, and especially before the audience arrives and you know that they're on their way and you're just filled with excitement and nerves, of course. And I watched my father perform, and I watched the response in the audience and the gift that he was giving them. In his case, the gift of laughter,
yes,
which is precious. You know, there's so many struggles and stresses that we all have in our lives, and I think there's nothing better than being able to give an audience a gift of something, in his case, laughter. And I think it gave me the drive to want to do that. And in order for me to be able to do that, I had to learn the tools on how to present and how to hold back on the nerves and how to be confident and accepted. But it sounds like a bigger process than it actually is, because for us, it kind of just happened in the flow of our natural life.
Yes.
So that then, you know, gave me the passion to be a performer. And then when I had my own two children, my two little boys, it gave me then the passion to work with children. I was actually working with children before I had my two sons. In Ireland, I had a drama program. It just wasn't called Mel O'Drama yet, which, by the way, is a nickname my father gave me as a child.
Oh, I wondered where it came from.
I wonder why. I'm imagining I was a very dramatic child, so he used to call me Mel O'Drama, and I used to say, well, you know, someday I will turn that into a business. So it kind of was just a natural, yeah, exactly, very prophetic. But it was a natural flow from my childhood into this line of work. Yeah.
Now, your book, what age group is it geared toward? And I noticed that it's written in prose. Why did you choose that writing style?
So the age group thing has been very interesting for me, because my demand in melodrama would be ages 5 to 8, let's say. Now, I do have a program for ages 8 to 12 as well, which is fantastic. We do improv, and it's so much fun. Kind of like a Whose Line Is It Anyway? Child-friendly version. So much fun. And then character development for the older age group as well, which delves deep into characters. But the majority of my students would be the 5 to 8-year-olds. So I think although the book seemingly on first glance might be directed more toward that lower age group of 5 to 8, because they see the colour, they relate to the fun characters, and it's, you know, kind of silly in ways as well. What has been very interesting to me is when I have shared the story with the older age group, because I've been reading in schools and reading it to my older classes as well, the older kids are also very interested, but for different reasons, which is interesting. They mainly, I think first of all, they're kind of fascinated that they're sitting with the author, and it gives them that accessibility that, hold on a minute, so if you can do it, then I can too, because you just live up the road and, you know, I know you. So I love that aspect of it, that they're, or did you write this? Is this yours? And I'm saying, yes, and you can do this too. The other reason the older kids love it is from the illustration point of view. Kids of that age are really into drawing and creating, and you know, whether it be on paper or on computer. So they're very interested in the drawings as well. And then the poetry, they're learning poetry in school. So that brings me to answer the second part of your question about why is it written in prose?
Yes.
Well, this is kind of going to sound a bit strange, but I can't take credit for it being written in prose. I didn't choose it to be written in prose. Darlene chose it to be written in prose.
Oh.
And the funny story about that is I started writing Darlene the Drama Queen about 2 years ago. And the first time I attempted to write her, I wrote her in first person. Just regularly, first person.
Yes.
And I got halfway through the story and it just wasn't working for me. So I left the project aside, started focusing on other things. And probably, I'd say less than a year later, I went back again and I started writing in the third person, thinking, well, maybe if I tell the story of Darlene the Drama, and I got to about the same point. And I said, no, that's not working either. And this past January, myself and my husband were coming back from a vacation in Florida. for his birthday. And I remember, and he probably remembers this even better because it probably came across as a bit rude. I sat down on the plane, I opened my laptop, and he was mid-sentence about something. And I literally just went, stop. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. Don't breathe on me. And he kind of looked at me, and I told him, there's something about to happen. I just felt Darlene was ready to be born as such. And, you know, he knows me 17 years now, so he got it and he turned. And I just started on the laptop, and it just started coming out in prose. It just made sense to me. And I feel that I could have just fallen asleep there as I was doing it. It was like a possession. And it just happened. And Darlene was written on a flight from Miami to Boston in, a very possessed-like way.
That's fantastic. It's that true touch of creativity and inspiration where you find the voice for your character. And it is perfect. It's poetic and fun and engaging, and it just completely fits. And I didn't realize that you had gone through two other, first person, third person, until you settled on the poetry.
Right.
It was really fantastic. Now, we only have a couple of minutes before the break, and I wanted to ask you, what do you feel is the most beneficial thing about performing as a child?
Well, absolutely. I would have to say, again, going back to the confidence part of things, it just brings a child out of themselves that little bit more. For me to even take it from the stage and put it back into a social environment, whether it be school or a dance class or any sort of a social activity, it allowed me to have the tools to be more social in certain situations, because believe it or not, although I might come across as being very competent now, I certainly had situations as a child that were unnerving for me, and I'm very grateful for my theatre background because that's what pulled me through. When I was 16, we moved to the United States, and coming from Ireland to the United States is an incredibly big shift, particularly at that age.
Yes.
And we moved to Florida, which is very different. If it had been Boston, I feel I could have, felt that sense of second home.
Right.
But Florida, again, very different. And my theatrical background allowed me to kind of weasel my way into circles, and I kind of knew how to hold myself and how to strike up a conversation. And then from my father being a comedian, I knew how to crack a joke then as well. And so I would have to say the most beneficial thing for me about being a child performer, and a huge benefit to children performing today, will always be that they'll have the upper hand when it comes to socializing, for sure.
Yeah. How beautiful. Well, we're about to take a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue talking to Mel O'Drama, who wrote Darlene the Drama Queen, who raises the curtain on confidence. And I've read it, and it's an incredibly effective and beautifully illustrated book. So we will return in just a few seconds to It's All Right with Suzette. We're back again with Melanie Gillespie, Mel O'Drama, as she is known, the founder of Mel O'Drama's drama school, acting school for kids here in Milton, and the author of Darlene the Drama Queen. Now, one of the things that I'm very curious about, because stage fright is so common, in your book you have a character named Lucy who's very shy. And I'm sure you encounter that a lot with the kids that you teach. And I think it is so important and valuable how you can draw out and nurture a child into public performance, which can inform their later life in speaking up, being heard, having confidence. Can you talk a little bit about the character of Lucy, and is she based on actual children and their issues that you run into as the founder of your drama school?
Lucy is very much based on several children who have come to Mel O'Drama, and their first day or their first couple of weeks are normally hiding behind mom's leg, afraid to come into the classroom environment. And it's probably one of my favourite personalities to work with, because I'm already excited for the child, knowing where this session can lead them. And so Lucy is very much based on that shy child who's there because they want to be there, but terrified to be there at the same time, and just hoping that there's something I or my fellow teachers can do to help them come out of themselves and be a little bit braver. So, you know, Lucy comes in and says, "Hi, my name is Lucy. I'm feeling shy inside. When people try to talk to me, it makes me want to hide." And for me, it's heartbreaking when you think of a child who really wants to participate, but they can't because they just feel this inner struggle.
And that translates also to just going to school and feeling like the outsider and not knowing how to break into groups of kids. I mean, I think of all the things you're teaching children and how it relates to everyday life.
Absolutely. This is what is incredible about theatre. I constantly say this, and not just because I'm biased, but I'm sure it's statistically proven too, but like drama classes and being involved in theatre, having that bond with other children is an incredible tool outside the theatre.
Yes.
It really is. It translates into life. Okay, so there are times when I'm probably very dramatic even as a person because of my theatrical background, but you know, that's my personality and that's who I am. And you know, for children who come into the class who are like shy Lucy, and I love to have her there, because when I'm reading the book to my students or to schools, I can see some of the shy Lucys in the audience kind of going, "Oh my gosh, that's me." And then dying for me to get to the next page to see how, you know, what do you give her? What tools do you give her that I can maybe practice? And I have had the absolute honour of seeing so many children that were hiding behind mom's leg on the first day get up on stage. And whether it just be a poem or whether it be a character in a show that we're doing, speak out, centre stage. And I don't even like to look over at mom because we've had a few tears shed because they're so proud of that moment.
Yes.
And then those children leave that classroom that day feeling so much taller and prouder and braver. And that's priceless for me.
Priceless.
It's incredibly rewarding.
Now, about the writing process, aside from your book, you write plays for the children to perform. And I'm very curious about that process. What goes into the creation and the consideration when you're writing plays for children?
So that is one of the funnest parts of Mel O'Drama. So we do take the children's ideas in class. I love to sit in a circle with the kids, and let's say an event is coming up, an occasion, whether it be Halloween or Christmas or you know, Easter, or you know, any of the holidays that children are interested in talking about. We've had the Jewish holidays in there as well, which have been fabulous. The children teach me about holidays that I wouldn't necessarily know a whole lot about, and we get to incorporate, you know, different pieces of different holidays into plays as well, which is great. But the kids, being that they have the freshest, and I don't mean that in the you know, rude sense, I mean freshest as in not stale, in the freshest and most vibrant states of their imaginations, they come up with these ideas. And Suzette, I mean, there's not a hope that I would be able to come up with an idea like that on my own. For instance, we did a show. Oh, well, they're wonderful ideas that can only come from the imagination of a child, I think. We had a show one year where the kids, it was going to be a Christmas show, and the kids said, okay, what if we fell asleep that night before Santa arrives, and then when we woke up, all the gifts were just gone? And I'm saying, okay, so that's great. So now we have a conflict in the story, which we need. But who would have stolen the gifts? And another child chimes in, but a bunch of mice, a pack of mice. And I'm writing this down going, okay, I'm going to have my work cut out for me, trying to go home now and write this play. And then another child piped up with, and guess what? We could name the mice after kinds of cheeses. And then one of my teachers at the time, her name was Morgan, came up with some of the names like Brie. We had Gouda. Gouda was kind of like the leader of the pack, and we had Cheddar. And it ended up being one of the funniest shows. You were, you know, Cheddar's in the house. And then we had an investigator come over to kind of look around to see if they could figure out who had stolen the gifts. And I needn't tell you what they found on the ground that led them to know it was mice. And then we brought the mice in. And then there's a lovely resolution at the end of the show where the mice become friends with the kids and they apologize and they're forgiven. And so there's a ton of lessons that I try to incorporate. But it's a lot of fun. The kids, I have to give them credit a lot of the time.
That is fantastic. Now, how, you know, when it comes to writing a children's play, I would think that the children's attention span is kind of limited, and so, and the lines, they probably can't memorize a lot of lines. What are the mechanics of that?
So I like to give every class their own show. So instead of doing a big show at the end where all the different, because I teach about 11 classes a week, so each class gets their own show. So by the time, you know, the end of the session is coming, it's busy because we're doing shows, and each class gets their own show, and we try and fit it into the time slot of the class. So let's say it's a 1 hour class. The children are dropped off on show day. We warm up for about 20-25 minutes. We bring the audience in, and then our show doesn't go over 30 minutes. I see. So it has to be, and they're 10-week sessions. So, and children have homework and they have other activities. So I can't be overwhelming them with lines and scripts. And I also try and write the show so that kids are getting at least somewhat of the same amount of lines. Yes. But then you have to take into consideration that there are some children who are more willing to speak than others. And I don't want to put pressure on children straight away. So you might see a shy child in the beginning might have their first show and they might have a couple of lines. But when they're ready for the next level, that's when I will really say, okay, I'm going to kind of up the game here a bit now and give you several more lines. Do you think you're able for it? Can you do it? And that's when they say, yeah, I'm ready. Because, you know, you start them off and you kind of bring them up in their own comfort level, giving them a little nudge on the way too, though they need that. I don't like them to be too comfortable, but very important to give them a comfortable, safe environment, lots of nurturing. You know, I feel like the temp mom for my students when I'm teaching. Sure. Because that's the way I would hope, you know, when I drop my children off to their activities, Irish dancing or, you know, any sort of a musical instrument or sports, I hope that the teacher or the coach can be there as a stand-in for me, nurturing them like I do for my students at least, you know, when mom and dad are not there. That's fantastic. Now you're expanding into Quincy. Does that mean you'll still be teaching all the classes, or are you going to be hiring other drama coaches? Well, I have found a gem of a teacher named Brittany Rolfs, who is a Milton resident. Fantastic. And Brittany is just a musical, theatrical actress and beyond. She is incredibly talented, plays the ukulele, she has the voice of an angel, full of passion for theatre. So Brittany has been with me for over a year now, and we've worked together in the classes in Milton, and now Brittany is actually taking the classes from Milton to Quincy, which is amazing. She's starting off with 3 classes in Quincy, starting very soon, and she has introduced a new part of melodrama that I'm very excited about, and it is musical theatre production. Oh. So yes. Wow, that is great. She meets kids on a Saturday morning for a couple of hours. It's intense, and they're going to be doing Seussical, the musical. This year it'll be performed in Quincy in December. So she has just brought something very fresh to melodrama, an area that I wouldn't be terribly familiar with. I would have been more of the comedic actress. I do love to sing, but I've never done musical theatre. So to have somebody brilliant come in and say, I have this idea and this is, and she just has this vision, and so yeah, it's still going to be me most of the time in Milton, although Brittany will be teaching with me in Milton a lot of the time as well, but she's stealing the show in Quincy. Fantastic. And in the couple of minutes that we have left on our show, how can we get a hold of your book? Is it only through Melodrama, or is it on Amazon? Let us know what your website is, and could you give us the addresses of the locations of your 2 schools now? Oh, absolutely. So Milton location of Melodrama is at the beautiful First Congregational Church, which is at 495 Canton Avenue. big shout out to the staff there, Pastor John and all the staff there, Laurie and Kate and the whole lot. They've just been phenomenal, so encouraging and supportive of the programme always. 495 Canton Avenue, directly across from the Milton Library.
Yes.
I hold some sessions there too with Sarah in the Milton Library.
Oh, yes.
Another fantastic outlet
I've seen
for
you on
kids.
the calendar, yes.
And then the Quincy location is in another beautiful church called Christ Church Quincy, 12 Quincy Avenue. And that's located across from Firestone in Quincy, just in Quincy Centre there.
Yes.
And another fantastic group of staff members there. Pastor Cliff there and Steve Marcus, the whole lot of them, and Dee, they've been tremendous and supportive. And as for where you can get the book, several different locations. Actually, locally in the Toy Chest.
Perfect.
Yes, in the beautiful Toy Chest there, just over the Fruit Centre. It's available there. It's available on the publisher's website, who have Mascot. Big shout out to Mascot, who put together such a beautiful book for me. Mascot.com is their website. BarnesandNobles.com, Amazon.com.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, and then if you wanted a personalised copy for me to sign it, you can go to my website, and that's melodramakids.com.
Melodramakids.com.
And when you go into the payment section, in the note to seller, you can just write, Mel, would you mind signing this to my daughter Lizzie or whoever it might be? And I am more than happy to do that and get it sent straight out to you.
Well, that's fantastic.
And do you mind me mentioning as well, Suzette?
Yes.
I have a great event coming up on the 8th of October in the Barnes & Nobles downtown at the Prudential Centre.
Fantastic.
And that's going to be a reading, signing, drama, games, and just a lot of fun.
And what time is that?
That one is at 1 p.m. at that Barnes & Noble.
Barnes & Noble's at the Prudential Centre.
Right, yes.
Well, it has been a delight to have you on our show, Mel.
Oh, thanks,
and
Suzette.
I think instilling children with confidence early on is one of the most precious gifts that you can give them. So thank you so much, and we'll catch you the next time on It's All Right with Suzette.